So good evening, everybody, or morning, or whatever time it is. This video is going to be a little bit different because we haven't been on the road bike in a little bit as far as a race goes. It's actually been 3 years since my last crit race, probably 5 or 6 years since my last Donaldson Center or road race, period. That's a long time, but they've changed the schedule, so I'm back in, baby. So we are going to be at none other than the Hincapie Spring Training Series. But the best news possible, it is not raining. I mean, it's been raining like every 4th or 5th day. It'll last for 3 or 4 days. I seriously thought North Carolina was gonna turn into Waterworld and Kevin Costner was gonna jump out at any second with his stupid web toes, and it's rained so much that I started training underwater. But in all seriousness, guys, I wanted to go ahead and get to the race because most of the videos that I see here on the YouTubes it's pros giving pro tips, you know? Those are phenomenal because I am not a pro. I race, you know, Cat 1 on the mountain bike, Cat 3 on cross bike, fixing to be a Cat 3 on the road as well. A Cat 4-5 field is completely different than the Pro 1-2 field. But I think after reviewing the video, I was just gonna post it as a race recap-y thing. I think it's worth pointing a few things out. Maybe if this is your first time doing a race, I'm not gonna tell you how you're gonna win, but I can tell you some things that are gonna alleviate some of your fears of doing a road race with 50 to 100 people. So let's hurry up, let's get to Greenville, we'll go over this.
All right, so on to the race. And how can you not love the dance party music that we have going on here for the start of a bike race? But all I see in my head is Terry Crews.
Be safe, guys. Be safe. Really good.
If this is your first time racing a road bike event, specifically something like a circuit race that tends to be a little bit easier than a crit race, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't need to worry about that'll more than likely get you in trouble than help you. The main thing you need to worry about is keeping your rubber side down, making sure you don't crash, and not so much worrying about the breakaways. That seems to be the #1 thing that people get screwed up with. So the best thing that you can do is have a plan before the race starts. If you have a plan, it makes it so much easier not to make dumb mistakes. This particular race is 40 miles, so not super long, but you know, 40 miles is gonna take it over an hour and a half to complete. You've got a long time to figure out where you want to be in the group before the finish. The only thing that is imperative is the last, 5 miles, you need to be top 10. So my plan going into this event, this guy right here on the yellow bike racing for the Miller School of Albemarle, they actually had a team that was working together. There was probably, maybe I classify a team at a 4 or 5 event of more than 3 people, or I guess 3 or more people wearing the same kit. And there was maybe 4 to 5 actual teams at this race, but there was only one working together. The rest of them were just like friends that could look at each other's jersey and say, "Hey, I know you." Everybody else, like this from the school here, they actually were trying to control the race, which is a good thing. That to me makes it a little bit easier. The guy on the yellow bike, I don't know his name, but they made him raise his hand at the beginning of the race. He had won the day before, so that was my plan. I was like, he won the day before, that means he is gonna at least, in my opinion, be in the top 10 at the finish. Now, I did screw it up, but my plan was to kind of force myself in with this team, maybe sit on his wheel a little bit, and that'll keep me out of trouble. And, having this plan makes it to where you don't chase down any breaks. If you're a single rider and you're not riding for somebody, you do not need to chase down a breakaway. You don't even need to help. You can watch multiple times. I'll point it out. I get to the front, I just pull off, I stop pedaling. People can come by me. There are gonna be people that want to chase that breakaway down. Now, if you get into the rare circumstance that a breakaway could potentially survive out here, and you wanna go across to it, don't just pick up the pace. You need to give it 110%. You need to blow yourself up almost. You gotta have a little bit left so you can sit on in the brake, but it needs to be your move. You can't do these little, like, I'm gonna chase down every single brake attacks just in the hopes, because then you're going to be too tired for a sprint finish and you're just going to finish, 30th or more. So my plan, because most of the time, I'd say 9 out of 10 times in a 4 or 5 race it comes down to a sprint, I was not going to do any work. Make sure I stay in the top 10 for the majority of the event just because I don't want to get tangled up in a crash. And then I was going to try my hand at the sprint and see what happens. So here's an example. There's a breakaway trying to form. This is pretty early in the race for a breakaway to even think about going away and staying away. The guy pulls off, wants me to pull through and help close it down. I say nope, and look what happens. There's plenty of people that are wanting to pull that down. Or pull it back, I guess. So a couple more people trying to go across to the break. All it does is it makes the group ride a little bit faster. Nobody in a 4 or 5 race wants to be left behind. So people trying to bridge across here again. It's just going to create more surges in the group. That's another good thing about if you're sitting at the front, you don't have to do any work. You can pull off the front. There's going to be tons of people coming up behind you, and you can slip right back in with barely having to pick up your pace. And like I said, for some reason the start finish is always super fast. I don't know if this was people's goal to attack here. It was just always the pace was picked up here. Definitely do not forget to drink. It's very easy in a short race like this. It's only 40 miles. It was even easy for me. It was very cold at the start finish. I had to purposefully look down at my Garmin, or I guess it's a Brighton, but I had to look down at my computer and make sure every 10 minutes or so I was taking a swig of something, because it's easy to forget and then you will suffer for it later on. Here everyone's picking up the pace. You're getting really close to the break. The break has been out there now for a lap or so. Since they were putting in that much work, I did rotate through. I didn't just stop pedaling, but that's all I did. I rotated through once. So I had to put power down for about 2 or 3 seconds. That's it.
Hey, Michael!
Also, if your event is longer than an hour, don't forget to eat something. Coming back through the start-finish line. At this point, the entire group is all back together. There is not a breakaway up the road. So here's what I mean about this team actually using some tactics and working together. He tells them to hop on his wheel. They are going to send one guy up the road, and then the rest of them are going to sit at the front and try to slow down the group. So I just hop on their wheel, I get a free ride to the front of the group, and then I let everyone else chase them down. There goes the flyer. And then a bunch of people start to try to pop off the front. So the more half-hearted attacks to jump across that go, the easier it is for somebody like me, because all it does is it fills in the gaps. I don't think, this effort here, I don't think my heart rate ever got above like 150 the entire time. But if I was at the front and I was trying to go across to that gap, you're by yourself, and it does get difficult. And that's why having a plan helps so tremendously. So unless it's at the start-finish line, you are not allowed to cross the double yellow. It is like an invisible wall. If you cross it, they send you to the back of the group. Ideally, when these guys start to really rotate through and everyone's working together, if you're not going to contribute to the pull, just sit on the back, be a gatekeeper. I do it later on. I'll show you what I mean. So right here you can actually see the breakaway. They've got a pretty decent gap, especially for as close to the finish that it is. So here's what I say if you're not going to contribute. This is more or less you not being an a-hole. If you're not going to contribute, just sit at the back of the people that are working together. They had a relatively decent pace line. Just sit at the back. Don't do any work. Let people work for you, especially if you're not on a team out there. They do a pretty good job of bringing it back. I think we are about to catch them at this point. I'm not 100% sure. Watch out for the little wheel scrub we got going on.
Whoa! Damn, guys. What the hell? Good save, bud.
So this being the last lap, we're coming up to the finish now. We're a few miles out, but people start to get in panic mode. They start to suffer a little bit, and this is where it gets a little dangerous because there's less people paying attention at this point than ever. Right there you can see the breakaway, and we are only a few miles away from the finish. So, I mean, they did a good job. They almost made it. I gambled that they wouldn't because 9 times out of 10 that's what happens, and they do eventually get caught. So it is a full-on sprint finish.
Hold your line. Come on, guys.
And I really hate calling out where I am. You know, a lot of your stronger riders don't even do that. You just give people a little touch. But in a 4-5 race, people freak out if you touch them. So I was a little disappointed with my sprint. Here's my major screw up. So I've lost the wheel of my buddy. The guy that I said was going to win, I've lost his wheel. He's on the right. He's up towards the front of the group. I am sitting at about, I think, 20 to 30th position. I know I'm in a terrible spot. This is not ideal whatsoever. I have already screwed up my sprint. And then right up here where the road goes double lane, they give you the entire 2 lanes to do a sprint. People started bumping elbows and riding really stupid. Like this kid right here about got creamed by a car. So this lane on the other side is still open and a car was coming and he crossed the double yellow. Do not ever do that.
Hey, watch out! Damn, kid.
So right here I'm still boxed in, sitting in about like 30th position. And then right here is where I wanted to start my sprint. People were bumping elbows so much, and I actually just got mad and was like, screw it, I'm gonna move up to the front. You can even tell right here, I will point it out when I start my actual sprint. I have no idea that I'm at the front of the group. Right here I'm like, holy crap, there's the finish. And this is my dig for a sprint. I was very disappointed because I got 5th. You know, I started in about, I'm gonna guess 20th. I'm not gonna give myself that big of a, benefit of sprinting from 30th to 5th. But I didn't get to even like unload my full sprint. That's what was disappointing to me. Like once I got to the front of the group and the finish came that quick, I just didn't have enough time. I did submit for my upgrade to be a Cat 3 after this one race, and they gave it to me. I had, from 3 years ago, a bunch of points, and with the recent changes, I submitted and I got it. So 5th place did have a payout, so I was happy about that. You can't complain about getting a little money. Oh, and the changes to USAC, if you go check, pretty crazy. Back in 2017, I could only do, because of these road races, the timing, Usually my Cat 4-5 race would be way in the evening, so I just didn't race that much. A lot of the road races were going away. I think it's having a bit of a resurgence now. There are more people coming out to the races, which is great. But I just couldn't do as many of those races as I was doing my mountain bike races. I did 4 events in 2017. I think I won 3 of them, and then I got second in 1, and that back then was not enough points to upgrade because the numbers were low then. And it was a rolling year at that point. So if I wanted to upgrade, I had to get those points in a single rolling year. Now they have changed it. Now you can use points from 3 years ago to help you upgrade. So I did this one race, got 5th. That put me well over how many I needed to upgrade with the points that I had from that year. Submitted for my upgrade. Thank God I'm a Cat 3 now. And I'm very excited to race those events. But I figured, you know, I'm not a pro. I just know what helps keep me out of trouble, that this video could help somebody, especially if it's your first time coming out here. It's very nerve-wracking, and if you don't do well, don't sweat too much about it. It's usually not your fitness. It's either the tactics that you choose, or it's your nerves are just high. My first road race, I didn't even finish. I got dropped on because at the start line, my heart rate was like 130. Your nerves are gonna be high. You just have to do enough of them to where you're not nervous anymore. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you. It might be a couple more weeks until I do my next race because the Cane Creek Cup is coming up, and I'm super excited to race Cat 1 in that. See how I do. But besides the races, we are getting some new bikes in that I'm super excited about. Be doing some of those videos as well. But I will catch everyone in the next one. Later.